Walk us through your interview process and how you find the diamond in the rough, because it's not an easy process and it's highly imperfect. So what do you look for in the candidates, whether they're teaching candidates or administrative candidates, and how do you go about identifying and differentiating between the people who walk into the room, or maybe even before they walk into the room?
Let's go before. I'm going to check references. Okay, check references. Have either of you ever called checked references?
Yes.
Okay. Did you know over 1/3 of the people that get hired in education, approximately, no one's ever checked a reference on? And I say, praise the Lord, because otherwise people like me don't get jobs. So, however, does checking references take intelligence? Do you have to be intelligent to call her? Do you have to be highly intelligent to call a reference?
Well, you have to figure out how to use the phone. After that, you're pretty much home free.
So any 5-year-old can do it, basically is what you're saying. Okay. Do you have to be talented to check a reference? Does it take effort to check a reference?
Minimal.
Okay, but it takes effort. It does take.
Yeah.
It doesn't take intelligence or talent. It takes effort. Would you rather put effort into hiring or effort once they're hired?
You're right.
You'd rather put effort into
Of
hiring
course.
because
Of
you'd like a
course.
talented person. Okay, so check a reference. What's the most common question a person is asking any profession when we check a reference? What's the most common question we ask?
We usually ask about reliability. We ask about attendance. We ask
The most
about
common question asked in any profession when we check a reference.
how do you know this person? How do you know the person?
The most common question we ask in any profession when we check a reference. I'll tell you, and you'll agree that's the most common question. It is the most common question. The most common question is, would you hire him again? Okay. And what percent of the time is the answer yes?
100.
95. They could have done something horrific with a turtle, posted it on YouTube, and they made that cutoff. All I want is great. See, what happens is questions like that is all you want's the minimum, and I want the maximum. Okay. But would you hire him again? You'll tell me yes. Okay. And let's pretend, who wants to be the principal here that I'm asking these questions for? Okay. So Mark, would you hire him again? You're going to tell me yes, most likely. Would you agree? Yes. Okay. So you say, would you hire him again? You say yes. Guess my next question is, would you recruit him?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a different question than would you hire him again?
Yes.
Is that a completely different question than would you hire him again?
Completely.
Okay. So Mark, whether you say yes or no doesn't matter. My questions are the same. I'm really a quick thinker, but I'm more of a deep thinker. And I seem so quick because I've already thought of it, if that makes sense. So that makes it seem quicker than it is. But you said, would you hire him again? You said yes. You said, would you recruit him? Whether you say yes or no, it doesn't matter. But let's say you say yes.
Mm-hmm.
My next question is, how many teachers do you have in your school? So Mark, how many teachers, how would you answer that? How many teachers do you have in your school? You can go to previous
About
school.
140.
140, okay. You said you'd recruit them. You have 140 teachers in your school. I asked you that question. Guess what my next question is?
How many of those 140 would you recruit again?
How many of those 140 would you recruit? So of your 140, how many would you recruit?
So let's say 70.
70, okay.
Hypothetically.
I know two things now. One, I know how picky you are and aren't. Because see, what's interesting is the problem is, not only do we not know the person we're trying to find the background on, we don't even know the person we're asking. Is there a difference if Mark said, I'd recruit 20 or I'd recruit 120? That's a difference in you, Mark. That's not really a difference in the school. That's a difference in you.
Right.
Okay. But let's say you said 70, but it doesn't matter. You could say 20, 120, said 70. Guess what my next question is? Where do they fall in the 70?
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Is it the 10th teacher you'd recruit, the 35th teacher you'd recruit, or the 70th teacher you'd recruit? Let's say you say 10th, but it doesn't matter. My question's the same. Let's say you say 10th. Guess what my next question is?
Mm-hmm.
What keeps them from being first? What's the difference between them and the first? Mark, am I asking you different questions than you've ever been asked in your life?
100%.
Am I asking you questions that's really hard to lie to?
Absolutely.
You know what's more important than that? I'm teaching you to think like great principals already think. Any teachers watching that you think principals don't sort teachers in their head, not only are you mistaken, if they don't, you need to get out of that school. because they don't see a difference between their best teachers, their average teachers, and their other teachers. See, they're not going to personalize anything in their school if they don't see the difference. And if you ask your best principal, how many employees in your school could you absolutely not live without? Do you know it takes them this long to answer? 7, 11, 14. Because what they're thinking is 7, I got a night custodian that doesn't sleep or drink. For sure, I can't lose them. I've got 1 counselor that's outstanding, 1 secretary that if they'd gone, we're closing the school, and 4 teachers. Any of those 7 quit, I'm out. But otherwise, because what I'm doing is I'm forcing you to think like great people think.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so automatically, do you see how now I know where this person falls in your school?
Yeah.
Instead, we ask stuff like, what are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? Well, you know what,
Right.
Mark? I don't know if they're number 139 out of 140 in your school. I don't know if you're somebody who goes, every teacher's great. Every teacher's great in my school. Every teacher's great. I have no idea. I don't know about you, and I don't know about them because I didn't ask anything specific. And I'm nice. I'm just doing this quick because we don't have time, and I'm trying to be cute and make sure I engage the audience. But I'm nice. I want to know the truth. I don't want to pretend. And I do stuff like on a 1 to 10 scale. How are they on classroom management? You're almost always going to say 8, 9, or 10.
Right.
Let's say you say 9. Okay. Guess what my next question is? Do I find out about a 9 based on how many 10s you have? You go, I have 135 10s. Or you go, I have 5 10s. That tells you something about the 9.
Right.
And then I go, why aren't they a 10? What keeps them from being a 10? What's the difference between them and a 10? But I could ask that related to leadership, morale, attitude, effort level, anything that matters to you. But it's the 1 to 10 scale that's the cutout that's so critical. Does this change asking questions? This also goes with, if I'm at central office, when I have a meeting with principals, this is the kind of information I share with principals. So principals are more excited about principal tomorrow than they were today. Mark, you heard this. You're going to ask different questions the next time you check a reference, aren't you?
1,000%.
So if you came to central office meeting and I just gave you this opinion, you'd love it if 2 teachers quit. So you could call and check references. I don't mean it in that, but I don't mean it in a mean-spirited way at all. You're just like, I want to try this.
Right. Just the opportunity to try a new thing.
That's
more
how
effective
great
than the old
principals
thing.
make faculty meetings look forward to and value. I give you something you can immediately implement that you walk out of there, you're chomping at the bit, ready to start. Right. And the same way with my principal. Why do we suck the life out of people? You ever been at a district principal's meeting? You want to take a letter opener and stick it in your thigh to make sure you're still alive? I mean, I can't do that, but I do it because the people did it to me. Okay, so we've now this. There's 2 things. One, when I'm interviewing someone, no matter what I think of them, I want to make sure they want to be in my school. Even if I'm not going to hire you. Maybe you'll be on the sub list. Maybe you'll end up being 3rd choice, but I don't get the first 2 choices. So whatever it is. So I say things like during the interview, if you want to be a part of the best school in the state of New York, this is the one to come to. And if you don't, I understand, because a lot of people don't want to work that hard. But if you want to make a difference from the day you walk in the school, this is the one to be at. See, I don't have a pecking order. I don't have a seniority list. I don't hire 2 new teachers to fall in line. I hire new teachers to form new lines. I don't hire new people so they become like the school. I hire new people so my school becomes like them. If you have an opinion, I want you to share your opinion, because I'm not going to hire you if I don't want your opinion. And if I hire you, that means I want your opinion, so you feel comfortable sharing it anytime you want to. And if you want to make a difference from the day you walk in the school, this is the school to come to. But I understand if you don't want to work. Superstars, backbones, and mediocres. Who's attracted to that?
You want to come recruit for us?
They want to, no, but I want to come and teach your principal how to do it. I want to teach everybody how to do it, because they could do it. You now know exactly how to check reference. So anyhow, and then there's my other thing. When you ask questions in an interview, in my opinion, the most important questions are true life situational questions. Because there's a difference. When I have you in an interview, I need to differentiate you from other people. I don't want you to be like other people, because then I don't know who to sort out. So I don't ask stuff like, tell me your strengths, tell me your weaknesses. Nobody's going to go, my strength, I can do the bench press. My weaknesses is I lose my temper and I call kids cuss words. Nobody's going to say that. They do it, but they're not going to say it. So I ask true life situational questions. Here's my very favorite interview question. I'll be honest. If I could ask you this one question, I have sorted you into within a 10% range based on your answer. Okay, here's
I'm already getting nervous and excited at the same time.
Okay. Here's my number one question. Say you're teaching. It's the first week of school. You may or may not know the kids' names yet. And I say that because if you're a high school English teacher, you may have 120 kids. And if you're an elementary teacher, you may have 18 kids with their names taped to the desk. And being able to know names is like spelling. It's a visual memory that's not related to your talent and ability. Spelling is not related to intelligence. I still wish we could do it, but that's not. It's a different piece of mind than intelligence. So just keep that in mind. So you may or may not know the kids' names yet. It's the first week of school. You're teaching. You may or may not know the kids' names yet. You're teaching, and a kid in the middle of the room starts talking. What would you do? So Mark, what would you?
Well, the young me or the seasoned veteran me, because the young me would lose my mind a little bit, make it a big deal, call the student out, do everything that you're not supposed to do.
The seasoned veteran you, what would you do?
Make a connection with the student and try to inspire the student to.
Okay, tell me what you do. Like, what words would you use? Where? Tell me specifically. Make a connection. Everybody says that. And some teachers do it and some don't. What exactly would you do? Right now, class is in session, the kid's sitting in the middle of the room, you're teaching, first week of school, what would you do?
I just walk over and make my physical presence known to the student, and very often that disrupts the misbehavior, because they feel that now I'm in there closer to their proximity, and that sometimes creates a shift in what they're doing and how and why they're doing it.
Okay, great. And so no matter what he says, I'm saying this. So it really is incidental. So my feedback is not based on your answer. My feedback is based on my next question. You just think it's based on your answer, and that's okay. I go, okay. So, and then a few minutes later, you're still teaching, and the kid starts talking again. What would you do?
So same idea, except this time perhaps maybe there would be a little bit more like a tap on the desk or something, just a little, like escalating it just a little bit, but not in any kind of. I'm a big believer in nonverbal communication as a way to try to manage, behaviors and misbehaviors in the classroom, because otherwise I have to literally stop what I'm doing, and now nobody gets instruction, so I can now just take care of one particular student, and I don't want to do that because that sets the wrong message, and it also takes away from the perception of who's really in control of the classroom.
Okay, and
I would try to.
Let me finish it. In a few minutes, you're still teaching, and the kid starts talking again. What would you do?
Hopefully at this point I'm close to the end of the period where I'd have an opportunity to have a conversation with the student at the end, so I don't have to single a student out in that moment. But most importantly, not take it personally, and then create the opportunity when I have home field advantage to take care of the situation and help the young person understand better what my expectations.
Is this a true life situational question?
It happens every day.
Yes.
Would all of your teachers answer this questions the same?
No.
So I'm differentiating immediately. Do you know why I ask about true life situational questions that involve classroom management? Because this is exactly what you're going to do. And what you would have said at 22 was exactly what you were going to do. But do you know some people at 22 give answers like you give today? Because I'm assuming now you're 32. So some people
very perceptive
quicker. Thank you. We don't have a great anyhow. But you see how I automatically know what you do. What's funny is we hire people and we don't know what they do. And if you can't handle that correctly, there's no chance you can handle everything else correctly either. But if you can handle that correctly, we can get to everything else. One thing to know, and this is in your school, Mark, and I'm not judging your school. I don't even know your school. So I have no idea. 20% of your teachers at most would do something that doesn't escalate in the answer in the interview because they think they're supposed to prove us in charge. You would have people who, I guarantee you, by the second time, maybe the first time, would say, I'd stop and I'd say, do you want to teach? Would you like to take the chuck and teach? Is what you have to say more. And you know what? I need to know that's you before I hire you. Because if that's you, I don't want you. Because it's a self-control thing. And then I also say stuff like, Mark, would you ever call the parents? You're every single teacher in your school. If I said, would you ever call the parents in an interview, what would they say?
Of course.
Of course. And then you know what I say? I'm the parent. Call me. Because you know what I get to hear? Tone and manner.
Right.
I'm not worried about specific wording because at 22, you're not as sophisticated in thinking through it, but your tone and manner is still going to be the tone and manner you're going to use on that phone call.
Right.
So that's an example, but don't ask for a ridiculous. Don't go, what if they pull out a bong and they start? The best teacher never thinks about that, but the best teacher does think about, what am I going to do if a kid in the middle of the room starts talking? They think about that every day before they teach. They thought about that when they were 11, working with their dolls and teddy bears and then having pretend school. So it's true life. And don't ask stupid questions like, if you were a cookie. I think it's so funny when people go, you're so smart because it really threw people off. No, it didn't throw them off. What it did is that told them they don't want to work for you. That's what that told them. I don't want to work with weirdo McWeirdo. That's exactly what that told me. But this true life situational question, the best people have thought about this stuff all the time. And so what I'm getting is tone and manner and disposition of you. A friend of mine owns businesses, hugely wealthy. And you know what he always says? He goes, Todd, I can teach cash register, but I can't teach nice. And so I don't know if nice is exactly the word I'm looking for, but some ability to gather yourself, some ability to be the adult in your room. Because you know what? You've hired 22-year-olds who are the adult in the room. And you have 52-year-olds in your school that are.
Right.
And they would. And the reason classroom management, because everybody does the best they know how, classroom management. So whatever you think, if you think I'm supposed to prove who's in charge, I'm going to show them right now. I want to know. Because when I hire you, that's what you're going to be doing. I'm sorry, Nick, to cut you off. I just wanted to finish the example because Mark was feeling a lot of pressure and we both liked it.
A lot of pressure. I was trying
to throw Mark a life raft, but
yeah, you got to come in a little stronger, Nick. I mean, I was dying out there.
I know. No, but my comment is irrelevant now, so don't worry about it.
But do you see how?
Yeah.
And I'm kind. I'm doing this quicker because I'm trying to make it like it seemed to up the pressure, and I'm trying to be funny and
It worked.
but I'm kind the whole time. And say you're teaching, and the first day of school, you may or may not, and a kid in the middle of the room starts talking. What would you do? Because I need to know what you do. I need to know what you do. And by the second and third time, think of the percentage of teachers in your school, in any school, not yours. I'm not putting your school down. I'm not complimenting your school. In any school, think of the percentage of teachers that would feel like they've got to draw a line in the sand. A great teacher's first instinct when a kid is misbehaving is to keep teaching and not look at the kid. An average teacher's first instinct is to stop teaching and look at the kid. An ineffective teacher's first instinct is stop teaching, look at the kid, and challenge them and escalate the situation.
Right.
As a principal, I teach my teachers this all the time, and I give them exact examples how to do it, what this means, how people have done it, how I see it, because they want to be good. They want to be good. A quick example I gave, and I'll let you all ask any other questions you want, but a quick example I give to teachers all the time. When you were a student, think back to when you were a student K-12. When you were a student K-12, as a student yourself at any grade, K-12, could you name the teachers in the school that were yellers?
Of course.
Could all the kids in your school back then name the teachers that were yellers?
Yeah, of course.
Could the kids in your current school name the teachers that were yellers?
Definitely.
How many of you, I asked the audience this then, how many of you got into education to be the yeller? And how many of you didn't know, not only do the kids all know, that your colleagues also? And none of us got into education to be the yeller. And you know what we can do is stop. I wish I had some other great solution. I don't. I'm not smart enough. But we can stop. And we can have 2025 be the year we've always wanted it to be. Because it doesn't matter what we did in 2024. You know why? Because it's windshield. It's not rearview mirror.
Right.
You didn't know, your colleagues knew, but they knew.
Okay.
Wow.
And all you can do is stop. And do you see how you set up things? And in my school, who are the most comfortable people? The people doing right. Who are the least comfortable people? The people doing wrong. In way too many schools, the most comfortable people are the people doing wrong because the principals avoid them. And the people that are least comfortable are the ones doing right because everybody else is picking at them. They may know they're good, but they're still jealous. You know, I know that teacher's really good, but they're still jealous. And they go, well, it's only because she doesn't have kids. It's only because, it's just some excuse that has nothing to do with anything. So it's just teaching. I hope this is teaching. I hope this isn't telling. It's just teaching. And if you were the yeller, do you see your level of discomfort right now? But how do you get rid of the discomfort? What do you do?
Stop yelling.
That's the only way to change your class.
Stop.
I don't have another way. I wish I had another way. I don't have another way, but I don't ever go into that much detail. I just lay that as an example. And I don't point to people because it's a self-reflection. I don't need you to behave when I'm looking. I need you to behave when I'm not.
I'll tell you who taught me. I'll tell you, because I wasn't a terrible yeller at the beginning, but I yelled from time to time because there were a number of people who yelled. And I thought at 22, 23 that that's the way it was supposed to be done. But I'll tell you who taught me the lesson that, I wish I had known you 30 years ago so I could have saved myself the embarrassment here. But like, who taught me the lesson actually was an 11-year-old, because I had an 11-year-old at the time. This is going back 29 years, and his name was Scott. I remember his last name too, but I won't put it out here. But I would give him lunch detention with me because I was told early on that if you don't take care of your discipline issues on your own and you outsource them, then you basically take all of your authority and outsource that as well. So I had my own lunch detentions, and he was a frequent flyer with me, and he would come in and I would give him the silent treatment because it was supposed to be punishment. But again, this is the 23-year-old me. And one day after like the 10th lunch detention, I finally asked Scott, who was like this cherubic little 11-year-old, but at the time he was a demon in my mind and my world. I said, Scott, why do you keep driving me crazy, keep interrupting the class, and keep forcing me to yell, and then you wind up in lunch detention? And he looks up at me and he says, when you yell, there's this vein that pops out in your neck and the class goes crazy. So I'm like, oh my God, I've been getting played this whole time because he'll take the lunch detention just to be the guy who got me to do the thing that everybody loves. And that was the end. I never yelled after that because I learned so much from him in that lunch detention, which really was a teaching moment for me. And sometimes the students are your teachers, and that's definitely for me one of those times.
Nobody repeats a behavior without a reward, and his reward was the kids liked him better because he was making you do the next thing.
Right.
I was terrible at school. Starting in first grade, when I had a teacher who could get yelling, I'd tell all the other students before he walked into class, watch this. And I've never said watch this in a great teacher's classroom because I couldn't push their buttons.
Mm.
In every school, you have teachers that the kids don't know it's possible for that teacher to yell. And you have teachers that don't know it's possible not to yell until the principal teaches them. Mark, can I tell you something that would have prevented you from yelling? If you'd student taught with someone exceptional and your mentor was someone exceptional, and the principal at the first faculty meeting of the year talked about why we don't yell in the school, you would have never tried it. And you would have come to a better conclusion quicker.
Right.
And you wouldn't have learned from whatever the student's name was because he probably wouldn't have been in recess because I missed recess because he wasn't getting the benefit of the neck thing.
It's true.
Yeah. And that's just what it is. And that's what everyone wants to be. That's the other thing. I think when it comes to classroom management, I think you don't find resistance. But I do if I tell you to do it and you don't know how. Of course you do. I don't tell you not to yell. I give you a reason where it's your benefit not to yell. Because you're only going to do it because of you. And I'm not being critical. We all do. Anything we can all that we benefit from, you don't try to lose weight so your neighbor looks better. You try to lose weight so you know what I mean? I mean, that's the way we all are. And it's okay to be that way. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just, to improve people, I've learned teachers, I have to give them two reasons. One, because it's best for the kids, and one, because it's best for you. And the great teachers will do it because it's best for the kids, and everybody else will do it because it's best for them. But either way, we do it, and that's all I care about. I don't care why you do it. I just care you do it.
It's almost impossible for me to believe that you didn't want to be an educator from day one, because you just have such natural instincts as a teacher and a leader. And so I just have to ask, did you ever have any teacher in high school or principal in high school that had like the biggest impact on you in your life, or a coach, or?
When I was In college, I dated a girl whose dad was a high school basketball coach. And that's exactly when I decided to try. Like, I skipped all my classes my sophomore and junior year in college. I never went. I didn't buy books. I just show up and take the tests. I didn't ever study. I didn't do literally didn't do anything. And luckily my theory was if it wasn't good enough, it wouldn't be the minimum. And I got to see someone who was a basketball coach and teacher and whose wife was also an educator, and the impact they had. And I was already in law school before I finally made that decision. And I graduated in business administration, so I quit law school and got into education. And but for me, there were very, very few people that could get my attention in classes. But that helped me because I realized most teachers are teacher pleasers, and I love to hire teacher pleasers because they're principal pleasers. But many times teacher pleasers don't understand the thinking of people that are non-teacher pleasers. And luckily, that's a gift I have. So I teach them what to do with non-teacher pleasers. Because and it's really true, in my K through doctoral studies, I probably had 3 teachers I ever tried for. I did wonder what they did differently. And that's where what great teachers do differently, the thinking stemmed from. Because they did, how come I paid attention in Mrs. Robinson's class? Because I didn't pay attention in anyone else's class. And what did they do differently? And that was really it. And so, but what I really try to do, though, is I try to teach you how to be the Mrs. Robinson without seeing the movie The Graduate. But I try to teach you how to be that person. And you realize you can be that person. It's just like Mark realizes he can be the person that doesn't yell or doesn't do whatever the different things we talked about. And it's incidental. It's just that was the choice that I described. But I want you to realize it at 22. And I want you to realize it within a month of me being principal in your school. And I want you to realize before the first assembly what we do at assemblies. Because I want you to do it right. It's sort of like, and this is a hard description because I'm always worried when I say the popular kids table, that means like the kids that were popular but mean to other people. But I'm talking about the well-rounded everybody wants to be at the popular kids table. And in my school, I teach the teachers how to be at the popular kids table. Yelling, you can't be at the popular kids table. I'm sorry, you just can't be there. Treating every kid with respect and dignity every day, that gives you a prime seat at the popular kids table. And there's room for all of us. There's room for every single teacher at that popular kids table. Every single teacher. And I just teach you how to be there. And everybody wants to be there. I mean, they really do. We all want to be there. Right. And the superintendents teach people how to be at the popular leaders table. It's just they have a different audience, but it's the same audience. And the great teachers, don't they teach the kids how to be at the popular kids table? In their classroom, this is the way to be accepted. This is the way to be respected. This is the way to fit in. This is the way to, whatever it is, the words, I'm choosing words that you may not agree with, and that's okay. It doesn't offend me. But isn't that what they're doing in life? And I have to set up a school so my best teachers become the most well-respected. Because sometimes in a school, it's the teacher that has the most money, is the most attractive, used to be a sports star, is local, is whatever, are the most respected. And I don't want you not to be respected, but I need that people who are the best teachers to be the most respected because they have the most influence then. But I've got to teach you what it is they are. And you see, just going in the rooms, Mark, you may hear Nick's really good, but if you go in his room, you're going, oh, crap, I didn't know it was that good. You see what I mean? Because he has 9 of the kids you have, and the 9 kids behave for him, and the 9 kids don't behave for you. And, but seeing it, you see how that's like hearing me call parents and me defending you, defending teachers. That means a lot more than me just say I'll defend. So anyhow, and everyone can do this. There's really nothing special. Everyone can do this. You just need to think like some people think, and you can do it. But if you think like average people think, you can't do it because you're just stuck in an average world. And none of us want to be in that in education. We don't want to be in life, but for sure we don't want to be in it for.
Can I ask you one last question before we?
Anyhow,
before we?
yeah. Oh, fine. Fine. It's Saturday. Go ahead.
Just to capture the premise of looking forward through that windshield instead of the rearview mirror. AI obviously is going to play a role in schools, but I'd love to get your take. Do you see it more as a tool that will be used to cut corners for both students and teachers? Or do you see it as something more transformational and taking us to whatever the next iteration of education could possibly be?
It depends if you use the superpower for good or evil. What about crib notes? Or whatever those things that used to, was it book? Crib notes was the book you could buy that had the, but I never bought it because I never carried it anyhow, so it's all stupid. Could that also to help you know, do I want to read this play? Do I want to read this book? Do I want to read this? Or could you use it to cheat? I think AI is exactly the same thing. Do you use your superpowers for good or evil? When a person gets elected, do they use their superpowers for good or evil? And people have to decide, and they hopefully decide before they elect them. And that's not about any particular official. It's at every level. When you were talking about interviewing teachers and hiring teachers, so they have superpowers, so they're going to use them for good or evil. And isn't that sort of what you're when you're checking references and when you're interviewing?
Right.
I mean, and I don't mean good and evil. I don't mean it quite that, but I sort of do mean it like that. It's just a different way of thinking. The principals, do they use their superpowers for good or evil? But they all want to use them for good. It's just we have to teach them we have to hire correctly. And we also then have to teach them how to accomplish what they want to accomplish in a way that focuses on a positive windshield looking thing versus not. So it's sort of like when you had the student in, if it was recess, you were holding them in, or but after class, whatever it was. Are you using that to berate and belittle? Or are you using that to help him learn a vision of what you want tomorrow to be?
Right.
And those are the two, and you have a choice of either one. And the recess isn't even a negative thing if you could help them develop ability to be more skillful. And you also can talk to them during recess versus threaten to hold them in for recess. It can be, Nick, do you have just a second? And Nick and I talk during recess. Or Nick, you're going to sit next to me, just like the assembly. It's exactly the same thing. And so you have that power. Good question. I don't know. I'm not smart enough. I still rely on AI actual intelligence, and so I tend to lean that way. But we have a choice in every advancement. It's like the internet. Is it good or bad? Yes. The answer is yes.
Right.
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 Social media, is it good or bad? Yes.
Right.
Yeah. And I mean that sincerely. It's incredibly good and it's incredibly bad. Depending on the operator, it isn't the thing that's there. It's like clip charts. Are they good or bad? Yes. If a great teacher's class, they work well. In a poor teacher's class, they're terrible. It's never the clip chart. But what we do is we're too afraid to deal with the ineffective teacher, so we outlaw clip charts. And we never move forward.
Right.
Because the ineffective teachers in the school, they're just using a tool worse than clip charts. Because if they had a better one, they would have been using that instead of clip charts from the very beginning.
Right.
But we get confused. It's a lot easier to just blame and generalize and talk about kids nowadays and parents nowadays. And, I always think the downturn in society is when Hannah Montana changed her name to Miley Cyrus. I really do. I think up till then we were doing well. But at that point, kind of.
Wow. I watched pretty much every episode of that show because my daughter was just at that age when that was incredibly popular. So I get the reference.
Yeah. So I don't even care if they don't. It's funny to me. The only
I
other
laughed
thing
and
I
I
will
don't
leave
get it.
your audience with is, and I'm not usurping the influence of Nick and Mark. I'm not influencing the influence of people that are in your area. I'm nobody, but if I can ever help you, call or email me. My website's toddwhitaker.com. I don't have any people. Education, it's really funny. Teaching is the most isolated profession, which is weird because you're never alone. But leadership is the same way, in that you may never be alone, but at times you can be lonely. And as long as you're on the side of the kids, I'm on the side of you. So anytime you want, call me, email me. I'm happy to visit. The neat thing is I'll never know if you actually don't do it because we're done with the phone call and we're all then, and you can pretend you're going to do it and just leave me alone. But call me or email me anytime. I will tell you the truth, look you in the eye, and I will work to not hurt your feelings. But I want to help you. That's it. I'm nobody. I want people to help me too. So this isn't like it's a one-way I'm a genius. It's just I'm a neutral outsider who is on your side and who was willing to tell you the truth. And then you can decide whether or not to do it.
Well, I wish every teacher and every administrator had the opportunity to spend time with you, because your insight is about as impactful as I think I've ever heard in education. Everything you say, I think the strength of what you're doing is that it's all practical and realistic, and it's genuine. You really get it. So often teachers are sick of hearing the jargon and, the advice that really doesn't make a difference. You get it. That's why I'm still going to never be able to accept that you were not a born teacher from day one. Thank God for the ex-girlfriend's father, because without that, we'd be in trouble, because you are an incredibly powerful voice in education. So thank you so much.
You're awfully nice. I'm the first person in my family to graduate from college. And
Wow.
so that's a nice compliment. I grew up and my dad used to say, those who can do and those who can't teach. And I realized he just misspoke. He meant to say those who can teach and those who can't go into some less significant.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. It's an honor to be part of y'all's group. It's an honor. So same way, if I can ever help you, give me a holler.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
Whitaker. If you'd like to catch up on previous episodes of State of Ed Podcast, you can catch us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, or on the web, stateofedpodcast.com, where you'll find links to what we've discussed, including Dr. Whitaker's information and his website and everything else. You can also follow me on Twitter at Marcus6 or at Marcus6.com, on YouTube at Edupyro, EDUPYRO. Please check out my new book, Captivate, Engaging and Empowering Students in a World of Digital Distractions. It's available on Amazon, and love for you to take a look at that. Dr. Whitaker, thank you so much. We had an amazing conversation, and you sharing your insights were just completely inspirational. And there are about 40,000 different quotes that I really want to just pull and keep right by my desk, because the insights are incredibly valuable, and we really can't thank you enough.
You're all very kind. It was a treat for me. Special treat.
Thank you.